Log entry, day 80. The recorder blinks steadily, and I let my words drift into its quiet light. The ship has carried me now to a darker world, a rocky sphere circling its star in silence. From orbit, its surface looks jagged, scarred by deep canyons and mountains worn to blunt edges. At first glance, it seems barren, lifeless, a place where silence alone resides. Yet as I watch, I see faint glimmers deep within its cracks, threads of light pulsing through fractures in the stone. The glow is subtle, not the harsh blaze of fire, but something softer, steadier. It seeps outward as if the world itself is breathing with hidden radiance. The sight stirs curiosity in me, pulling my thoughts from distance to presence. I adjust the ship's course, bringing it into lower orbit, and the glimmers sharpen, stretching into patterns across the surface. There is no visible city, no signs of machinery or structures, only caverns, long and wide, their mouths glowing faintly from within. The light seems organic, like the pulse of something alive beneath the rock. It is not hostile. It waits patiently, inviting rather than repelling. I decide to land. Thrusters fire gently, guiding the vessel downward. The atmosphere is thin, enough to scatter the starlight into pale blue halos around the peaks. Dust rises as the ship lowers, settling upon black stone that gleams faintly under the glow. Touchdown is soft, the hull trembling once before falling still. Through the port, I see the cavern entrance ahead, a yawning hollow in the side of a cliff. From its depths, light spills, soft, silver blue, shifting as though carried by unseen currents. The glow does not flicker, it pulses, slow and deliberate, like the heartbeat of the world itself. I sit in silence for a moment longer, listening to the hum of the vessel. The cavern waits, its glow steady, and I feel no urgency, only the calm pull of exploration. My words settle into the recorder. Orus 9 sang in crystal. This world whispers in hidden light. I will enter its hollow and listen. I gather my pack, check seals, fasten the harness, and step toward the hatch. The door opens with a sigh, and the thin air meets me with cool stillness. My boots press against stone that hums faintly beneath, as if carrying vibrations from deep within. Ahead, the cavern mouth rises, dark edges framing the glow inside. The surface behind me is barren. The hollow ahead beckons. I breathe slowly, steady, and begin my walk toward the light. The cavern rises above me like the mouth of a cathedral carved into stone. Its edges are sharp, jagged from ages of fracture, yet the light spilling from within softens them, painting the rock in pale blues and silvers. I step across the threshold, boots crunching softly on mineral dust. At once, the air changes. Outside, the world was still and dry. Here, the cavern breathes with cool dampness. Moisture beads along the walls, glimmering as the light touches them. The The sound of water echoes faintly, a drip here, a trickle there, each drop ringing like a distant bell as it strikes the stone. The walls themselves shimmer. Crystals are embedded in the rock, not as separate formations but woven into the stone like veins of light. They glow faintly from within, casting a gentle radiance that reveals the passage without banishing its shadows. It feels as though I have entered the body of the world, walking among its hidden currents of light. I let my hand brush the wall. Even through the glove, I sense vibration, a slow hum rising from deep within. It is not mechanical, not artificial. It is the pulse of the cavern itself, resonating like an organ sustaining its note. The ceiling arches high, hung with stalactites that glitter faintly, drops of water clinging to their tips. When one falls, it strikes the pool below and ripples outward, the surface flashing briefly with refracted light. The sound lingers longer than it should, the cavern's acoustics stretching each drop into a tone, as though the cave itself is an instrument. My footsteps echo, layered into chords by the chamber. The more I listen, the more I realize this hollow is alive, not only with glow, but with sound. Every movement, every drip, every breath becomes part of its quiet symphony. It pulls me back to memories of Earth. I recall walking as a child into limestone caves, lantern in hand, watching shadows stretch across stone. Stalactites dripped steadily, and I imagined the cave itself was speaking in code. Later, I remember stepping into caverns lit by phosphorescent moss, the faint green glow painting walls in otherworldly hues. Even then, in those small, familiar places, I felt awe at how stone could become alive with light. Here, that feeling returns, magnified 1,000-fold. This cavern is not hidden. It reveals itself in layers of glow and sound, as if offering its secrets willingly. I pause, closing my eyes for a moment. The glow still rests against my eyelids, faint but steady, and the hum vibrates through my chest. It feels as though I am not separate from the cavern, but part of it, one presence among many in its hollow. The recorder blinks as I whisper, "The cavern does not resist, it welcomes." Its walls shine with light, not to dazzle, but to guide. I walk not as an intruder, but as a guest. I open my eyes and move deeper. The passage narrows, then opens again, twisting gently as though shaped by slow rivers long gone. Each turn reveals new glimmers, crystals clustering in alcoves, pools reflecting ceilings like mirrors, echoes chasing each sound until they vanish into distance. The light grows stronger as I descend, not harsh but more present, as if leading me towards something waiting further in. My steps slow, my breath steadies. The cavern holds me as patiently as the stars above ever did. Ahead, the tunnel widens. I glimpse an opening vast enough to dwarf the ship itself. The glow spilling from it is brighter, shifting faintly, no longer steady like crystal, but alive, moving in rhythms I do not yet understand. The hollow deepens. Something waits within. The tunnel curves one final time, and then it opens. Vast, breathtaking, unlike anything I have seen before. I step into a chamber so immense it feels like the inside of a planet's heart. The ceiling arches high above, vanishing into shadow, while the floor stretches wide, broken by pools of still water that mirror the glow around them. Stalactites hang like frozen chandeliers, each one shimmering faintly, as if storing light within its depths. The walls pulse with radiance, veins of crystal threading through the stone. Their glow is not uniform. It shifts in waves, dimming and brightening as though the chamber itself breathes. Each pulse is slow, patient, echoing into the pools below until the water glimmers like a sky of stars. I stand still, awed into silence. The chamber hums with resonance, low and steady, vibrating in my chest. Every drop of water that falls becomes a note in the cavern's endless song. I feel as though I have stepped into an organ the size of a mountain, each part tuned to harmony. I walk carefully toward one of the pools. Its surface is so smooth it looks like glass, reflecting the stalactites perfectly. As I lean closer, faint ripples distort the reflection, spreading outward. The light beneath the surface stirs, flickers, then fades again into calm. Something is here. At first, I tell myself it must be shifting crystal, perhaps a trick of reflection. But as I watch, the flicker returns, moving not as stone, but as presence. A soft glow drifts beneath the water, slow and deliberate, like a lantern floating in darkness. Then another follows, and another, until the pool glimmers with faint shapes weaving in silence. I hold my breath, watching. The glow is not steady. It pulses in rhythm, each being shining then dimming, like fireflies speaking in light. Their paths curve gracefully, never colliding, never hurried. They seem to weave constellations beneath the surface, stars moving in patterns too slow to grasp. I step back, gaze lifting to the chamber itself. Along the far wall, faint motes of light float in the air, like dust caught in sunlight. But these motes move with purpose, drifting slowly from shadow into glow. They brighten as they draw near, revealing forms too delicate to mistake for mineral. They hover, suspended in the air, pulsing faintly in hues of silver, blue, and gold. The recorder blinks as my voice drops into whisper. The cavern has a heart, and within it, light moves alive. The beings do not approach quickly. They remain at a distance, their glow shifting in unison with the chamber's pulse. It feels less like a gathering and more like a ritual, each being a note, each pulse part of the cavern's song. I lower myself to the ground, sitting cross-legged upon the crystal floor. The resonance travels through the stone into my bones. The glow spreads slowly across the chamber, pulsing outward and back again. I let my breath fall into the same rhythm. Inhale with the glow, exhale with the dim. Minutes pass, or perhaps hours. Time here bends differently. The cavern has no urgency. It waits, it breathes, it glows. The recorder light blinks again, but I leave words behind. Some moments do not need speech. They only need presence. I raise my gaze once more. The motes drifting in the air brighten, their glow overlapping, merging into patterns. They do not touch me, not yet, but I know now I am not alone. The luminous beings of this hollow are here, watching, waiting, breathing with the cavern itself. The chamber feels vast, yet I do not feel small. I feel invited. The motes drift nearer, slow as falling snow, yet deliberate in their movement. Their glow strengthens as they gather until the chamber shimmers in a living constellation. I sit very still, letting them come on their own terms. The first reaches me, a sphere of faint silver light, no larger than my hand. It hovers at eye level, pulsing gently, its glow waxing and waning as if in conversation. For a moment, I forget the recorder, forget even myself. There is only this presence before me, alive and curious, its silence fuller than any sound. Another joins, golden this time, circling slowly around me before pausing above my shoulder. More drift close until I am surrounded, not trapped, but embraced. Each one holding its glow steady, a patient vigil. Their light reflects across the crystalline floor, scattering into 1,000 smaller sparks, until it feels as though the cavern itself has bent into a sky filled with stars. I extend the hand, not to touch, but to acknowledge. One sphere dips lower, hovering just above my palm. Its glow brightens, warming the air faintly. Though no heat reaches my skin, I feel it in another way. An impression of warmth, like the memory of sunlight lingering long after the sun has set. The beings pulse in patterns, not random, but deliberate. The silver one flashes softly 3 times. The golden one answers with 2 slow pulses. Around me, the rest follow suit, weaving a rhythm that echoes in my chest. It is not language as I know it, but it is communication nonetheless. Light speaking to light, presence answering presence. From the pool nearby, the larger beings stir. Their ribbon-like forms rise gracefully from beneath the surface, glowing in pale blues and soft violets. They move like currents of light given shape, their long bodies bending and flowing as if they were liquid made alive. As they draw near the shore, the chamber brightens, the smaller spheres pulsing in resonance with their approach. One ribbon curves close, gliding through the shallow water until its glow touches the crystalline shore. A low tone rings out, resonant and deep, carried through the floor and into my chest. The spheres above brighten in response, their pulses quickening into a chorus of light. The cavern hums with harmony, every presence joining, every glow and tone woven together. I whisper, barely audible, "You are singing." The silver sphere before me pulses once, slow and deliberate. I feel, not know, but feel that it has heard. The ribbons circle wider, their glow shifting in waves that ripple through the water and onto the cavern walls. For a moment, the entire chamber becomes a living aurora, flowing with color and sound, alive with presence that asks for nothing but recognition. I close my eyes. Behind my lids, the glow remains, shapes dancing in memory, tones vibrating through me until I feel as though I too am glowing. I breathe with them, slow and steady, my chest rising and falling in rhythm with their pulses.
When I open my eyes again, the beings are still here, surrounding me, patient and unhurried. There is no fear, no threat, no demand, only companionship, light meeting light, silence meeting silence, life meeting life. The recorder blinks, and I let it capture only my whisper. I am not alone here. I am among luminous beings who speak without words, who welcome without question. The glow around me seems to soften as though in agreement. Time stretches, or perhaps it has no meaning here. I remain seated, embraced by radiance, watching the ribbons drift through water and the spheres hover in still air. Each movement, each pulse is deliberate, gentle, complete. I feel less like an explorer and more like a guest invited to sit within their eternal gathering. And in their glow, I find not only wonder, but peace. I remain seated in the glow, surrounded by the beings who drift with patience and grace. Their presence is not loud, not overwhelming. It is steady, unhurried, like lanterns kept alight in an endless night. As I watch their pulses of light, I begin to think of Earth, of evenings in meadows when fireflies blinked above the grass, their small bodies flickering in patterns too complex for me to follow. They were never chaotic, only carrying a rhythm I could not understand. And yet, sitting there as a child, I felt comfort in their glow. It was enough to know that life expressed itself through light. Here, across stars and distance, I see the same truth carried forward. These luminous beings speak in pulses of radiance, weaving patterns across the cavern's walls. They do not need voices. Their glow is enough. It says, I am here. I see you. You are not alone. The recorder blinks, and I let it capture only fragments, my words soft and slow. Light has always been connection. Lanterns in windows, fires at night, stars above our heads. Now here, in this hollow world, light gathers again. Always the same language, spoken differently. I watch as one golden sphere hovers close, pulsing faintly. It reminds me of a lantern set gently upon water, drifting downstream, its flame steady against the current. I imagine all beings, everywhere, carry such lanterns, marks of presence sent into the dark. The ribbons beneath the water curve together, forming arcs that mirror constellations I once traced in Earth's skies. Their glow ripples through the cavern like the Milky Way stretched across stone. I recall lying on the ground, staring upward at the galaxy above, feeling both small and infinite at once. That memory is alive again here, reflected not in stars, but in beings moving through an underground sea. I feel a thread connecting it all: the fireflies in grass, the lanterns on rivers, the stars in the sky, and now these creatures in the cavern. Each glow carries the same truth: that presence is not bound by distance, and companionship can be found wherever light gathers. I breathe slowly, my chest rising and falling with their rhythm. For a moment, I imagine my own body as another lantern, my breath a pulse of light joining theirs. And in that thought, I no longer feel like an observer, but a participant. The cavern holds us all together,
stone and water, crystal and glow, silence and sound. This is not an accident, not coincidence. It is the universe's oldest song, carried into new forms again and again. The recorder's light blinks, and I offer it one last whisper before silence. Where light lives, so too does companionship. We are never as alone as we believe. The beings hover closer, pulsing softly, as though agreeing.
I let the reflection rest inside me, carried forward like memory, like starlight, like every glow that has ever drifted through shadow. The time comes to return, though the cavern does not press me to leave. The beings drift as they always have, steady, unhurried, their glow neither brightening nor dimming at my departure. They seem eternal, as if my presence is only one more note folded into their endless song. I rise slowly, brushing crystal dust from my gloves, and begin the walk back toward the tunnel. The luminous spheres hover nearby, drifting in gentle arcs as though escorting me. They do not follow far, only enough to guide me until the path narrows again. At the cavern's threshold, they pause, their light pulsing once in unison, a farewell or perhaps simply their rhythm. Then they drift back into the chamber, returning to their harmony. The glow fades behind me as I retrace my steps through the passage. The hum of the crystal walls remains, steady and low, carrying me forward. Droplets fall from the stalactites above, each one ringing into silence, a reminder that even absence can sing. When I emerge into the open air once more, dusk has begun to settle on the rocky surface. The faint sky glows with the last light of the star, and the cavern mouth behind me pulses faintly, its inner radiance spilling softly into night. The hollow world does not darken. It continues to breathe with its hidden light, as though the beings within lend their glow to the surface as well. The ship waits, steady and familiar. Its lights blink faintly, another lantern on this world of stone and glow. I climb aboard, the hatch sealing behind me with a sigh. Inside, the cabin hums, its own constellation of panels and indicators pulsing gently in rhythm with the vessel's heart. I set down my pack, remove the dust from my boots, and pause at the port. Through the glass, I see the cavern's mouth still glowing, a reminder that the beings remain, their light alive even as I prepare to rest. The thought brings ease. Exploration has not separated me from them. It has woven them into memory, carried forward like starlight traveling through ages. The recorder blinks, patient. I speak softly, my words slower now, weighted with calm. The luminous beings of this hollow world remind me that wherever light gathers, so too does companionship. Tonight their glow remains with me, carried within as I drift into rest. The light glows once, then stills. I move into the berth, fastening the harness lightly across my chest. The cabin dims, the system slide into night mode, the hum softening until it blends with my breath. A few faint lights remain, small glimmers in the dark, like the spheres that hovered around me in the cavern. I close my eyes, and the glow does not fade. It lingers behind my lids, warm and steady, like lanterns keeping vigil in the silence. The hum of the vessel and the memory of the cavern merge until they are one rhythm, carrying me gently into the hush. The ship drifts, the cavern glows, and I rest, held by their light.